Today I'm going to show you how to install a BlackWing Fork Brace, the one that's already on there. I'm going to show you the very simple process of installing that brace on this Honda Goldwing GL 1800. This is a non-airbag model of the GL 1800. A 5mm hex wrench, a screwdriver, torque wrench if you got it. That one's set to 10 foot-pounds, and then a pair of needle nose pliers. I just always use my Leatherman. Also, you need a towel or a rag to set the fender on, and a rolling seat would be very nice. Makes the job go a whole lot faster. You'll notice first, before we start, the bike is on the center stand. Well, first thing, you loosen up the 4 fender bolts. I like to crack them loose first. And the last bolt, you want to slowly back it out while you grab a hold of it so it doesn't drop. Carefully lift the fender off, keep track of your bolts. Now the next part is these 2 bolts right here. Again, they're 6mm bolts, and we'll use the same 5mm wrench. Just kind of crack them loose and then back them out. Now that's where you need your little needle nose pliers. There's a little push pin inside here, just right behind on the back there, a little black plastic push pin. So what you got to do is get in with your needle nose pliers, grab it, and just give it a nice yank. There we go. And the plastic cover just comes right off. Keep that aside. Then what I like to do when I take off accessories, and there's extra bolts or whatever, I like to put them right back where they go. So if you ever want to take the brace off, reinstall the cover, they're right there. It'll keep the threads clean, and you'll always know where these bolts are. So you don't have a stack of bolts somewhere you're not using. Kind of run them in there by hand. Give it just a little torque. Still don't lose them. Okay, now the cover's off. Now we can put the fender back on. Again, real careful. Handle this really easily, so don't scratch it. Run it in just to where it gets kind of close, but don't tighten it at all. So you got room to put these in. Same thing, you don't want to tighten anything until all the bolts are in. And then you can hold it in place and get it where you want it. Just kind of hold it like so. And don't tighten it yet, just bring it into where it's just a little snug. And when all 4 bolts, when you can feel them tighten it out, you just put a little bit of torque on, not very much. That's finished. Okay. Now what you want to do, this one's fairly clean, but usually there's going to be some road grime and stuff on here, oil. You want to just kind of wipe these off. That's where the brace is going to clamp. And so you just want to make sure that's nice and clean. Because the bore is cut to a fairly close tolerance, and any junk that's in there might interfere with it. Yeah, take that off. Okay, now I've already unwrapped my brace here. you do need a little screwdriver for this part, because before you install the brace, you'll see the brace comes with these screws for the bottom covers already installed. You'll have to install the lower covers before you put the brace on. And then when you put the covers on, you see on the bottom cover this relieve portion goes towards the middle. That's how that fits in there. That's where that's going to sit. So you want to be careful here so you don't... What I'll do is I'll actually put the screws in the hole. Hold it there close, and then run them in. And then when you go to tighten these, you want to push the brace against the screws, because you don't want the cover, this inside diameter of the cover, sticking out over the fork bore, because that then would interfere with the fit of the brace on the fork loaders. And you just give it, you don't need to tighten it too much. Back out the screws there. Okay, and you get them in there, just kind of, once you get the thread, the screw started in the thread, it'll just kind of go in. And again, you don't want to really tighten it until both are in and you have the cover in place. Then you just give it a little bit of torque there. Okay, that's ready to go on. Now, take your same 5mm wrench. You're going to crack these loose. These are torqued at my shop to 10 foot-pounds. So when you go to reinstall the brace and retorque the bolts, you'll get a feel of what 10 foot-pounds is. I use a torque wrench. Most people don't have a torque wrench handy, so it's just a matter of feel. Put you back out your bolts. Set the front half down. We're going to install the back half first. Because very carefully, take the brace, carefully stick it back behind the forks, and bring it up into location here. And it's going to kind of slowly just pull it into position. It should be snug but not very tight. If you have to force it, it's not going to go in. It's not mounting properly. And then at that point, if you have to force it, we'll have to loosen the axle bolts and spin the axle so the forks have room to float. Now that you have the back one on in place, you'll notice there's a chamfer on the fork lowers right here at the very top of the bore of the part where we clamp on. Just below the rubber bushing, you'll see that chamfer there. You want the top of the brace right at that chamfer. We're still going to adjust it, but that's what you're aiming for. Now you take the front of the brace very carefully, kind of snake it on there, and it should just kind of pull into place like so. one bolt on each side in, and you want to run the bolt in until it starts to pull. But again, we're not going to tighten it. We're not going to put any torque on it, because if you tighten too much on one side, it'll pull it apart on the other side. And stick a bolt in on this side. And just when it starts to tighten, because you want to have a little bit of room to adjust it. So now that you have that there, again, you're trying to get the top of the brace right at the bottom part of that chamfer. That's where you want it. And you can tighten it just, you can see where that gap just kind of disappears there, but it's not torqued yet. Then you want to go to the other side, and you might have to hold this by hand a little bit to get it aligned like you want. And the same thing, you just bring it in until that line just kind of disappears, but there's no torque on it yet. And then also, what you might want to do is feel the step right there. And when there's just a minimal step there, like 2 or 3 thousandths, that's about as close as you're going to be able to get it as far as alignment goes. The same thing on that, you might have to tap a little bit. This is rubber coated, so you don't want to do that with a regular wrench, just something that's soft. And you just want to tap until there's just no step there. And then once that part's done, now we're going to put the remaining 2 bolts in the back. Again, you want to run them in until they just start to grab, but you don't want to torque it. You can feel when it just bottoms out. And then we'll go over to the other side, put the 4th bolt in. Again, just take it till it just starts to grab. Now, you're going to go to the end here, and you're going to just give it a little bit of torque on that end. And come over back over the other side, and about the same amount, torque it, and then the 2 center bolts. And then one last time, you're going to give it just till it just stops moving. You know that it's pulled the brace completely back. And it won't turn anymore. Then you know you're bottomed out and it's closed up tight. Now I use a small torque wrench set at 10 foot-pounds. That's how I know how much to torque these. If you don't have one, again, it's going to be just a matter of feel. I'm already at 10 foot-pounds. And again, you don't want to go straight across with your torque. You want to torque one side, come back and forth. It's called a torque sequence. You want to sequence that torque so it pulls in the brace closed evenly. That one. There's that one. Okay, that's it. That brace is installed and torqued correctly. Now, a nice clean cloth, kind of clean up your work there. This is hand polished, so it's going to stay clean depending on how much you polish it. Just kind of clean her up there, just the way you like it. And that's pretty much it for the installation.